3 years after our divorce, my ex-husband, Julian, showed up at my door holding a massive bouquet of red roses. He had that same smug, confident smile I used to know so well. Chloe, I kept my word. I'm back. Right on time to take you back. 3 years ago, he played a game of truth or dare with his friends and lost to his childhood friend Serena. Serena had proposed a dare. I want to see if you and Chloe are actually true love. So get a divorce and don't see each other for 3 years. If she still wants to remarry you after 3 years, I'll admit it's true love. Julian had never set any boundaries with Serena. We fought about her constantly because of things like this. At the time, I thought there was no way he would agree to something so ridiculous. But to my horror, he agreed without a second thought. Sure, a bet's a bet. His friends tried to talk him out of it. Dude, think about this. Divorce is a major deal. But he just looked at me with absolute certainty. I trust our relationship. Chloe only loves me. In this lifetime, she will definitely wait to remarry me. I didn't say a word. He didn't realize that was the very last chance I was ever giving him. My thoughts snapped back to the present as he tried to shove the roses into my arms. I didn't take them. I stepped back, my voice completely flat.
Sorry.
My husband doesn't let me accept flowers from other men. A confident, knowing smirk played on Julian's lips. Still mad? All right. I'm here now. Aren't I, babe? Stop being childish, just like you used to. You stepped forward and reached out to pull me into his arms. I took another step back, my expression freezing over. Control yourself, Mr. Gray. His hands froze in midair. The gentle, tender look in his eyes never wavered from my face. Did I really make you that mad this time? Just tell me what you want and I'll buy it for you. Anything to make it up to you. He was still so utterly convinced that a few sweet words and a credit card could fix the wreckage he left behind. As he spoke, he took another step toward me. For every step he took forward, I took one back. The look in his eyes shifted, darkening with a sudden urge to conquer, to force me to submit. Julian, 3 years is a long time. It's enough to change everything. He nodded, seemingly agreeing.
True.
I backed up until my shoulders hit the cold brick wall. There was nowhere left to run. He slammed both hands on the wall on either side of my head, trapping me in his space. It was the same old wall pinning trick he used when we were dating. Back then, he loved trapping me in corners under the moonlight, just to kiss me, breathless. So did you give me a son or a daughter? He murmured, reaching out to gently stroke my cheek. At the mention of the child, a sharp, stabbing pain flared in my chest. 3 years ago, he knew damn well I was pregnant. Yet, after losing a stupid game, he still divorced me just to please his precious Serena. And for 3 years, he completely vanished. Not a single text, not a single phone call. Yet here he was, standing before me, with the sheer audacity to assume I had quietly given birth to his child and waited around like a loyal dog for his return. A mocking laugh escaped my lips. Before I could tell him that I had aborted that pregnancy, Julian's phone started buzzing. He pulled it out. The caller ID flashed with the name My Princess. That was his contact name for Serena. I had seen it countless times during our marriage. And just like before, he answered her call instantly. Julian, you need to come quick. My cramps are so bad. My stomach hurts so much. Serena's whiny, tearful voice echoed through the speaker. Panic instantly flooded Julian's eyes. Don't worry, I'm coming right now. He hung up. He reached out and hastily patted the top of my head, like he was soothing a harmless pet. I have to go check on Serena first. I'll come back to find you later tonight. Before the words had even fully left his mouth, he was already running down the street. Serena was still up to her old tricks, using Instagram to passive-aggressively flaunt her hold over Julian. Her latest post showed her lying in Julian's arms, looking pale and sweaty. Julian's hand was resting gently on her stomach, rubbing it. The caption read, "Since we were kids, he's always been the one who loves me most." Casually tapped the heart to leave a like. In fact, over the past 3 years, Serena had posted her flexes every single day for 3 years. She posted 1,095 brag posts on Instagram, and I liked every single one of them. She boasted about everything. For instance, she didn't have a job, but Julian gave her his black card to spend whatever she wanted. She lived in the house that was supposed to be our marital home. She used my old things whenever she wanted, or threw them in the trash if she felt like it. For the past 3 years, they lived exactly like a married couple. I knew she was doing it entirely to torment me, but every like I left was nothing but my pure contempt and indifference. Serena, however, convinced herself that I was just going crazy with jealousy, desperately trying to make my presence known. The next time I saw Julian, he walked into my coffee shop with Serena clinging to his arm. They were wearing matching beige casual outfits. Julian, who had always insisted on wearing stiff, formal suits when he was with me, was wearing a trendy, relaxed blazer. Today, back when we were married, I had begged him to wear matching outfits with me. He always brushed me off, saying he hated changing his style. Serena looked around my coffee shop, her eyes scanning the place with mock pity. He gasped dramatically. Julian frowned, looking at me with disapproval. I gave you so much money in the divorce. Why are you doing such grueling manual labor? When we divorced, I demanded half of his assets. He had signed them over without hesitation, probably thinking it was just a temporary deposit. I stopped wiping the espresso machine and looked up at him, my face entirely blank. 'Cause I want to, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Julian's face didn't change. He still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. Serena offered me a fake, sugary, sweet smile. Chloe, it's been 3 years. How have you been?
Great.
Serena seemed taken aback by how calm I was.
Just then,
Julian's phone rang. He turned around and walked outside to take the call. The second he was out of earshot, Serena's sweet mask fell off. Her smile turned into a smug, venomous sneer. Cut the act, Chloe. But don't get your hopes up too high. She looked down her nose at me, a cold laugh escaping her lips. Even if you remarry Julian this time,
so what?
his mother still despises you. Her perfect daughter-in-law
Has always been me.
Julian is only marrying you out of a sense of obligation. In fact, he only came to find you today because I gave him permission. And you'll have to sign a prenup. By the way, I drafted it myself. She reached into her designer bag, pulled out a document, and threw it onto the counter. I looked down at it with sheer amusement. The terms were hilarious. I would have zero claim to any of the Gray family's assets. After marriage, I was not allowed to call his mother Mom. I had to call her Mrs. Gray. I was forbidden from identifying myself as Julian's wife in public. For the world, I had to remain his ex-wife. This absurd, insulting document actually made me laugh out loud. I slid the papers back over to her. If Victoria loves you so much,
Why are you still just his side chick?
Serena's face flushed with rage. She raised her hand, ready to slap me. But then, the sound of Julian's approaching footsteps echoed from the doorway. Her expression changed faster than a theater mask. Tears immediately welled in her eyes, and she adopted a look of tragic, selfless understanding. Chloe, I really do want you and Julian to be happy. I just want him to have a good life as his childhood friend. His happiness is all I care about. This prenup is just a formality. Please don't be mad at him. She was still the same cheap actress she was 3 years ago. And Julian, seeing her tears, lost all ability to think rationally. As usual, Serena, what's wrong? Julian immediately pulled Serena into his arms, his eyes filled with intense concern. Serena shook her head, putting on a brave, suffering face. It's nothing. It's my fault. Don't blame Chloe. The more she played the victim, the more Julian was convinced I had bullied her. Chloe, he barked at me, his face turning incredibly cold. Apologize to her right now. He spoke to me like a master commanding a servant. A cold smile touched my lips. He frowned, looking at me with frustration. Serena grew up with me.
She's like a sister to me.
She is my family. Can you stop being so incredibly hostile to her every single time? Even if it's just for my sake, can you try to be nice to her? I remained silent. I had seen this exact show countless times 3 years ago. I was completely sick of it. Just as I was about to kick them out of my shop, my phone on the counter began to ring with a FaceTime call. The caller ID read my baby boy. Julian's eyes lit up the second he saw the screen. Before I could stop him, his hand shot out and swiped the green button to accept the call. I quickly snatched the phone back. My 2-year-old son's adorable, chubby face appeared on the screen. Mommy, I miss you. Hearing that sweet little mommy, Julian practically vibrated with excitement. He was absolutely certain that I had given birth to a son. I quickly mumbled a few words to my son and hung up, just as Julian lunged to grab the phone to talk to him. Let me see my son. He was grinning from ear to ear, his anger from a moment ago vanishing as if it had never existed. Beside him, Serena's face turned incredibly dark. He is not your son, I said, my voice ice cold. Don't ever come near me again, you pathetic psychopaths. He didn't even get mad, trying to play the understanding partner.
All right, stop fighting.
I know you're mad, but I really miss you and our boy. At that moment, I realized that a self-absorbed narc like him would never believe I had moved on, until he saw my husband with his own eyes. Suddenly, Julian spoke up again. My mom's birthday is in a few days. You're a great cook. Prepare a few of her favorite dishes. Use this opportunity to fix your relationship with her. Now that you've given her a grandson, she won't be hard on you anymore. So he did know. He knew that during our 3 years of marriage, his mother had treated me like dirt. Victoria had always looked down on my middle-class background. Even though I was Julian's legal wife, Victoria never allowed me to attend any family dinners. If she was present at an event, I wasn't even allowed to sit at the same table as her. And during all of his mother's psychological abuse, Julian had always remained completely silent. A mocking sneer played on my lips.
Julian,
Tell me, why didn't I even have the right to have dinner with your mother? Back then? He hesitated for a second before mumbling. Well, that's just because you didn't know how to please her. Serena chimed in helpfully. Chloe, begging your elders isn't embarrassing. Gray actually loves it when people crawl back and beg on their knees. She was openly mocking me. Let out a dry laugh, locking my eyes onto Julian's. Julian, it's been 3 years. The world has moved on. I am married, and the child is not yours. Then I turned to Serena. Maybe you should try begging on your knees more often. Who knows? Maybe Victoria will finally let you through the front door. Serena burst into tears. I shouldn't have said anything, she sobbed, covering her face as she ran out of the shop. Julian's face twisted in fury. He glared at me. How long are you going to keep up this stubborn act? With that, he ran out to chase after Serena. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text from my husband. Hey, beautiful. The project is officially wrapped up. I'll be home tomorrow afternoon. A wave of relief washed over me. I figured that once Julian saw Alexander in the flesh, he would finally stop his delusional fantasies. The next day, right after I arrived at the coffee shop, I got a frantic call from my son's daycare teacher. She said that a man claiming to be my son's father and a woman claiming to be his godmother had just taken Leo away. My heart instantly jumped into my throat. I drove like a maniac straight to the Gray estate. When I burst through the doors, my blood ran cold. The double doors of the Gray family mansion stood wide open, taking me back to the 3 years of hell I spent trying to earn the approval of a family that treated me like a ghost. I didn't bother knocking. I pushed past the butler, who gasped in surprise, and marched straight into the grand living room. The scene unfolding before me made my stomach churn. Julian was sitting on the Italian leather sofa, spinning a toy car on the coffee table. Beside him sat Serena, feeding my son organic strawberries from a silver
bowl.
Victoria Gray, Julian's mother, was sitting across from them, holding her crystal teacup. She was smiling, a rare, genuine smile I had never once seen, directed at me during my entire marriage. He has Julian's nose, doesn't he? Victoria remarked, her voice dripping with rare warmth. I always knew you'd bring a gray heir into this world, Chloe. Though hiding him from us for 2 years is unforgivable. Leo saw me first. His eyes widened, and he dropped the berry in his hand. Mommy. Before he could jump down, Julian caught him by the waist, holding him securely in his lap with a proud, possessive grin. See, Chloe? Julian said, looking up at me with absolute triumph. You can stop the act now. You brought him home. He belongs here, with us. My blood ran cold, then boiled into white-hot rage. I took 3 steps forward, my voice trembling not with fear, but with pure disgust. Put my son down.
Right now.
Julian laughed softly, a condescending sound that made my skin crawl. He stood up, lifting Leo onto his hip, as if he had been doing it his whole life. Chloe, stop being absurd. I did the math. We divorced 3 years ago. Leo is 2.
He's
my son. You kept him from me out of spite, because you were mad about the bet. But I'm here now. The 3 years are over. You don't have to live in that tiny apartment or work in that little shop anymore. We're a family again. Serena stood up next to him, placing a gentle, possessive hand on Julian's shoulder. She looked at me with a mixture of hidden fury and theatrical pity. Chloe, please don't make a scene in front of Mrs. Gray. Julian just wants to be a father to his boy. We're willing to forgive you for hiding him, as long as you sign the agreement and let us raise him with proper high society manners. I didn't look at Serena. My eyes locked onto Julian's. You think he's your son? I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm. Of course he is. Julian smiled warmly, stepping toward me. He has my eyes.
Chloe.
I know you were angry, but you loved me too much to destroy our baby.
I
know you kept him as a reminder of me. Julian, I said, every word dropping like a lead weight onto the marble floor. 3 years ago, 2 weeks after you signed those divorce papers to win Serena's stupid dare, I went to the hospital alone. Julian's smile faltered slightly, but his tone remained arrogant.
To get a
Checkup for our baby, yes. No. I stepped closer, looking directly into his eyes, watching the light in them begin to flicker. I laid on an operating table. I listened to the cold hum of medical equipment, and I terminated the pregnancy. Silence crashed over the living room. It was so heavy you could hear the soft tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. Victoria's teacup rattled against her saucer. Serena gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Julian's eyes widened in horror. What? What did you say? I aborted your baby, Julian. I repeated, my voice devoid of any emotion.
I
Refused to bring a child into this world with a father who treats his marriage like a party trick, who abandons his pregnant wife for a dare, and who runs every time his childhood friend fakes a stomach ache. Your child was gone 3 years ago. I wash my hands of your bloodline. Julian staggered back half a step, his face draining of all color. No, you're lying. You loved me. You would never. Leo is my son. A deep, quiet, and utterly commanding voice echoed from the doorway behind me. We all turned. Standing at the threshold was Alexander. He wore a sharp, custom charcoal suit, his hair slightly windblown from rushing over. Behind him stood 4 men in tailored black suits, his personal legal team, alongside 2 uniformed police officers. Alexander walked past me, placing a strong, warm hand on the small of my back. The grounding weight of his presence instantly erased the suffocating atmosphere of the gray estate. Daddy, Leo squeaked from Julian's arms. Before Julian could react, Alexander stepped forward, effortlessly took Leo out of Julian's frozen arms, and pulled our son close against his chest.
Leo
Immediately wrapped his small arms around Alexander's neck, burying his face into his shoulder. Did they hurt you, buddy? Alexander asked softly, kissing the top of Leo's head. No, but the ladies smelled funny, and I want to go home, Leo whimpered. Alexander looked up, his gaze sweeping over Julian, Serena, and Victoria. His eyes were like glacial ice, cold, calculating, and full of dangerous promise. Officer, Alexander said without looking back, these are the people who kidnapped my son from his daycare under false pretenses.
Wait. Hold on.
Julian snapped out of his shock, his face flushing dark red. With anger and embarrassment, he pointed a finger at Alexander. Who the hell are you? Chloe, who is this man? I am Alexander Vance, Alexander said, his voice smooth and utterly devoid of
Fear.
Chloe's husband, and Leo's legal and biological father. Victoria gasped, almost dropping her tea. Vance? As in, Vance International? Alexander ignored her, pulling a folded document from his jacket pocket and tossing it onto the coffee table. This is Leo's birth certificate, along with a certified DNA test. If you need further proof, my lawyers will be happy to serve you with a court summons for child abduction, harassment, and emotional endangerment. Julian stared at the document on the table, then at Alexander, and finally at
Me.
the smug, invincible smirk he had worn for years was completely gone, replaced by a raw, ugly desperation. Chloe, no. Julian stammered, stepping toward me, his hands shaking. You married someone else? You had a kid with him? What about our 3 years? What about the bet? The bet was yours, Julian, I said coldly. Not mine. You threw away your marriage for a game. Did you really think I was sitting in a dark room for 3 years, waiting for you to come back and bestow your presence upon me like a reward? You're trying to make me jealous, Julian insisted, a delusional spark still burning in his eyes. He reached out to grab my wrist. That's it, isn't it? You hired this guy. You made up the abortion to hurt me. Chloe, look at me.
I'm
Here. I gave Serena my black card. I let her live in our house, but I came back. For you. I always intended to come back. Before Julian's fingers could touch me, Alexander caught Julian's wrist in midair. The grip was so tight that Julian's joints popped, and a wince of pain crossed his face. Touch my wife again, Alexander said softly, leaning in close to Julian's face. And I won't just destroy your family's firm. I will make sure you spend the next 5 years behind bars for kidnapping. Alexander shoved Julian back onto the sofa. Julian hit the leather cushions, breathless and trembling. Officers, Alexander turned to the police. You have the surveillance footage from the daycare where Mr. Gray and Miss Serena used forged credentials to take my son. Please proceed. The officers stepped forward. Mr. Gray, Miss Serena, you'll need to come with us to the station for questioning regarding unlawful removal of a minor. Serena screamed. Julian, do something. Mrs. Gray, tell them.
I didn't kidnap
Anyone. Julian said the boy was his. Victoria stood up, her polite facade completely shattering. She slapped Serena hard across the face.
Slap.
The sharp sound echoed through the high-ceilinged room.
Serena fell back,
clutching her swollen cheek, tears streaming down her face. You stupid, worthless girl. Victoria hissed, her voice venomous.
You told my
son that Chloe was harboring our grandson. You dragged our family name into a kidnapping scandal with Vance International. Get out of my sight. Mrs. Gray? No, Victoria, please. Serena begged, falling to her knees. I did it for Julian. I loved him. You loved his money, Victoria yelled, turning her sharp eyes to Julian, who was sitting motionless on the couch, staring blankly at the floor. And you, Julian, look at what you've done. You gave up a girl who brought half your assets into the marriage, sacrificed our reputation for this scheming parasite. And now you've offended Alexander Vance. I didn't stay to watch the rest of a circus. Alexander wrapped his arm tightly around my shoulder, holding Leo securely in his other arm. We turned our backs on the screaming, the crying, and the crumbling Gray family, walking out into the bright afternoon sun. Over the next 2 weeks, the fallout was catastrophic for Julian and his family. Alexander didn't just let the legal system handle the kidnapping charge. He pressed hard. Because of the Gray family's elevated status, the police investigation gained massive media traction. Headlines exploded across every local and business news outlet. Heir of Gray Group detained for child abduction. Delusional but ends in legal nightmare. The 3-year divorce game. How Julian Gray lost his business, his wife, and his mind. Serena's Instagram account, where she had bragged about her lavish lifestyle for 1,095 days, became a battleground. Thousands of netizens swarmed her posts, leaving brutally mocking comments. Her status as a high society socialite vanished overnight, replaced by public humiliation as details leaked that she had been living off Julian's black card while acting as a side chick in his home. Furthermore, Alexander's firm quietly pulled several key joint venture investments from the Gray Group. Without Vance International's backing, several of their major commercial real estate projects collapsed within days. Stock prices plummeted. Julian's mother had to liquidate 3 of her private properties just to cover the initial financial hemorrhaging. Despite all of this, Julian refused to accept reality. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, I was closing up my coffee shop. The rain was beating heavily against the glass windows, creating a soft, rhythmically soothing backdrop as I polished the counters. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up, expecting Alexander, who usually came by to drive me home. Instead, standing at the door was Julian. He looked unrecognizable. The crisp designer suits were gone. He wore a rumpled, rain-soaked trench coat. His hair was messy, dark circles bruised the skin beneath his eyes, and he reeked faintly of expensive scotch. He didn't step forward. He just stood near the entrance, holding a dripping wet leather binder in his shaking hands. Chloe, he choked out, his voice hoarse. I set down my wiping rag, my face completely neutral. The shop is closed, Julian, and you have a restraining order. I kicked Serena out, he said suddenly, taking a ragged step toward the
counter.
I threw all her stuff into the street. I revoked her access to my accounts. She's gone, Chloe. I severed everything with her. Congratulations, I said evenly. You did what a rational adult should have done 4 years ago. I brought this, Julian said, rushing to the counter and slamming the wet binder down. His hands were trembling uncontrollably. It's the deed to the main estate. My mother agreed. It's in your name now. Everything, my personal shares. In the Gray Group, the house, my accounts. I'm signing them all over to you. I stared at the leather folder, then slowly raised my eyes to his desperate, bloodshot face. Why?
I asked.
Because I know why you did it, Julian babbled, a terrifying, tragic smile spreading across his pale lips. You aborted the baby because you were heartbroken. You married that Vance guy because you needed someone to protect you while I was gone. It was all a reaction to me, wasn't it? You did all of This to hurt me, to get back at me for the 3-year bet. He dropped to his knees right there beside the counter. The great, arrogant Julian Gray, who had treated me like a disposable accessory, who had pinned me to walls as if I were a trophy to be claimed, who had let his mother insult me and his friend humiliate me, was now kneeling on the dusty floor of my coffee shop, wet, shivering, and begging. "Chloe, please," he wept, clutching the edge of the counter. "I'll crawl." "Serena said you liked when people begged on their knees. I'm begging you. Look at me. I'm on my knees. Just tell me you still love me. Tell me this was all a nightmare to teach me a lesson. I'll take you back. I don't care about the kid. We can have our own children. Just come home." I looked down at him. 3 years ago, if he had shown even a fraction of this remorse, my heart would have shattered into 1,000 pieces. I would have wept, held him, and begged him to stay. But looking at him now, kneeling in his expensive ruined clothes, all I felt was a profound, suffocating pity and a deep sense of relief that I was no longer trapped in his world. "Julian," I said softly, bending down slightly, so he could hear every word clearly over the sound of the rain. "Do you know why I liked every single one of Serena's 1,095 posts over the last 3 years?" He looked up at me, his eyes wide and hopeful, like a dying man praying for water.
Why?
"Because every single picture of you with her was proof that I made the right choice," I said gently. "Every brag post was a reminder that I was free."
I
Wasn't jealous, Julian. I was relieved that she was taking up your time so you wouldn't come back and ruin the life I was building." Julian went completely still. The frantic hope in his eyes shattered, leaving behind a hollow, empty void. "I didn't marry Alexander despite you," I continued. "I married him because when I was sick, he cooked for me. When I was scared, he held me. When I wanted to start this coffee shop, he didn't call it grueling manual labor. He stood beside me and helped me paint the walls. He respects me. He loves me.
and most
Importantly, he never made my dignity a stake in a bet with another woman." The front door chimed again. Alexander walked in, holding a wide black umbrella. He stopped when he saw Julian on his knees, but his expression didn't change to anger. Instead, he looked at Julian the way one might look at an insignificant, annoying insect on the windshield. "Ready to go, sweetheart?" Alexander asked me softly, stepping over to the counter and wrapping a warm cashmere coat around my shoulders. "Yes," I smiled at Alexander, leaning into his touch. "I'm ready." Alexander picked up our son's small backpack from behind the counter, then turned to look down at Julian. "Mr. Gray," Alexander said calmly, "the police are waiting outside for violating the distance clause of the restraining order. I suggest you get up before they drag you out." Julian didn't move. He remained on his knees, clutching the counter, staring at the floor as the tears dripped from his chin onto the wet leather binder containing his offered fortune. I took Alexander's hand. We walked past Julian, pushing open the heavy glass door into the cool, refreshing evening rain. Outside, the streetlights reflected off the damp pavement. Alexander popped open the umbrella, holding it high over my head to shield me from the drops, taking the full force of the wind on his own back. "Did he bother you?" Alexander asked softly as he opened the car door for me. I looked back one last time through the glass window of the coffee shop. Inside, Julian was still kneeling alone in the dim light, surrounded by empty tables and
cold air.
"No," I said, a soft, genuine smile touching my lips as I stepped into the warm car where my son was fast asleep in his car seat. "He's just a stranger from a bad dream." Alexander closed the door, walked around to the driver's side, and got in.
As we
Drove away into the bright, beautiful lights of the city. I didn't look back.
once